Coming up, a group traveling medical providers gave free health care to more than 1,000 people in Virginia over the weekend. And doctors are reminding people to practice safe habits around fireworks this 4th of July. Plus, a CNN investigation into the largest provider of health care for inmates in the United States found several cases of inmates suffering from treatable conditions that were ignored until it was too late.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News This Morning.
Good morning. It is 5:30 on Monday, July the 1st. I'm Will Puckett. Thank you for tuning in to Mountain News this morning. Well, yesterday you might have fallen asleep with a rain shower. You might have had a thunderstorm roll through or two, but this morning we're looking pretty clear across the region. Let's bring Brandon in this morning, give us a breakdown of what to expect on this 4th of July week. Brandon, good morning.
Good morning. And you know, like Garth Brooks said, the thunder rolls and the lightning strikes. And that's what we saw yesterday across the region. At times got caught in a little storm. I was waiting on some food yesterday, and it was coming down, that's for sure. Let's take a look at what's going on this morning. Fog is the name of the game this morning over Hazard. Fogged in here, and the same over Whitesburg, so just be very careful. Visibility is low across the entire region, less than 5 miles pretty much everywhere, so just give yourself plenty of time if you're hitting the roads early. 60s across the board, only 170 there at Logan, 64 in Wise, the cool spot. That's a few degrees cooler in some spots than this time yesterday, and a few degrees warmer in some spots than it was this time yesterday. Your planner, we're going to continue to see temperatures climb throughout the day, getting into the upper 80s by later this afternoon. The rest of that forecast coming up here in just a few minutes. Will?
All righty, Brandon, thank you. Well, Sunday ended the 20th Wise County Remote Area Medical Event, serving more than 1,000 patients. The past 3 days were busy. But as they packed up their things, WYMT's Lauren McCourt talked with volunteers about what they get out of the experience of helping all those people.
At a RAM event, you see so many people get the help they need.
Usually we'll see about, probably about 1,500 to, 2,000, even sometimes 3,000 during this event.
But what you may not realize is that the patients' lives are not the only ones being affected.
It's God's plan for me to do this.
I've never done anything like this before.
With more than 1,400 volunteers at this year's RAM event in Wise, Virginia, there were still plenty of volunteers.
I've been amazed at how much goes into putting this together and running it.
But when the patients leave with a new pair of glasses or a new set of teeth, the volunteers leave with full hearts.
Still, stuff like this just gets me. It's why I've been a nurse my whole life, why I want to be a practitioner. I want to serve this area.
Whether they volunteered all 20 years or this is their first time helping out.
I definitely take it for granted.
It's just been very rewarding and humbling to be here.
The experience of helping those in need makes all their time spent here worth it. In Wise County, Lauren McCourt, WYMT Mountain News.
Now, RAM's next event will be held in Dayton, Ohio on July 13th and 14th. Well, many people are getting ready to light up the sky as the 4th of July approaches, but emergency officials and doctors want to remind people to stay safe while having fun. Doctors say many of the injuries you see in urgent care or ER are kids who were unsupervised. Doctors recommend wearing gloves and protecting eyes when setting off large fireworks and keeping an eye on children when they are around fireworks. Well, a CNN investigation into the largest provider of health care for inmates in the United States found case after case of people trapped behind bars begging for medical help, often with disastrous outcomes. Among them, a man who died after pleading for help for a month. As CNN senior investigative correspondent Drew Griffin reports, people suffered from treatable conditions that were ignored, sometimes until it was too late.
What you are witnessing is the slow death of an inmate, a father of 5, whose pneumonia went untreated at a Colorado jail for days until he died in a pool of vomit and blood. Tiara Shorter had a similar experience in a Las Vegas jail in 2014. She turned herself in when she couldn't pay the fines for minor charges of not wearing a seatbelt and obstruction. Soon after, she fell ill.
All I felt was pain and nausea.
She was throwing up, says she begged the jail's medical staff for days to take her to the hospital and finally collapsed. When rushed to an emergency room, she learned from doctors her appendix had burst days before.
The appendix was burst for so long, it messed up the lining of my stomach.
Shorter, who says she was a healthy 19-year-old when she was arrested, has since undergone multiple surgeries. She's now suing the giant private health care company, Correct Care Solutions, or CCS, the jail's health care provider. Based in Nashville, CCS, now called WellPath, is the largest correctional health care provider in the U.S., with contracts covering 300,000 inmates in more than 500 facilities. And for the past year, CNN Investigates has been looking into allegations the company has delayed and denied care to some of the most vulnerable people in society, with disastrous results, including a 60-year-old man arrested for violating probation over a shoplifting charge. He begged for help for a month before dying when his perforated ulcer filled his stomach with blood. In Michigan, a 43-year-old woman arrested for check fraud pleaded for help about her swollen breast for 2 weeks. By the time she was rushed to a hospital, a mass in her right breast had ruptured, forcing doctors to perform a mastectomy.
We came across a number of cases where people had very treatable conditions like diabetes, appendicitis, and conditions that ended up turning septic and killing people because they weren't treated in a timely manner, if at all.
CNN reporters Blake Ellis and Melanie Hicken reviewed thousands of pages of internal and government documents, emails, inmate medical records, and autopsy reports, and they spoke to more than 50 former and current employees of the company.
A common theme we heard was they believe the company's focus on cost cutting, on saving money for the government clients, had resulted in substandard care and in some cases deaths that could have been prevented.
CNN found the company has been sued for more than 70 deaths in the last 5 years.
When there's litigation going on, you only see the negative outcomes.
Dr. Cassandra Newkirk spoke to CNN on behalf of the CCS WellPath company.
Internal documents, emails, medical records, autopsy records, and when we give it to an outside group of experts, the pattern seems to be, according to them, that there is a denial of care going on here.
Unfortunately, bad things do happen in any healthcare organization. So yes, the experts may see a pattern, but that's a very, very small number compared to the actual number of people whom we totally serve across the United States.
Dr. Newkirk and WellPath refuse to comment on specific cases, but deny allegations care is being withheld to boost profits.
Our staff are told never to allow financial anything, even their perception that there should be saving us money. Their job is to provide the best clinical care that they can.
But in Tacoma, Washington, Pierce County officials say the best clinical care is nowhere near what its 1,100 inmates received at the county's jail when a CCS subsidiary took over its health care.
We have a constitutional responsibility to this part of the population, and they're innocent until proven guilty, and even when they're guilty, they're still human beings entitled to health care. And that's what we thought we were getting with CCS Convet.
But you didn't get that?
No.
County Attorney Dan Hamilton says soon after the company took over, staffing shortages led to horrifying examples of poor care. A cancer patient not given prescribed chemotherapy treatment. An inmate with a broken jaw given only baby ibuprofen for pain. Written requests for medical attention from prisoners stuffed in a drawer and ignored, according to a nurse. After a year, the county stopped paying and described Correct Care's actions as morally reprehensible. Earlier this year, a jury ordered CCS to pay the county $1.6 million, a verdict CCS is appealing. Dan Hamilton says weeks after Pierce County hired a new private health care provider, the care of inmates improved. And that's exactly what WellPath's president is also telling CNN, that these are isolated situations that don't represent a pattern that defines WellPath. He says his company has rigorous policies that focus on compassionate care. Drew Griffin, CNN.
Now, WellPath serves several facilities in Kentucky, including at least 2 here in Eastern Kentucky. The Eastern Kentucky Correctional Complex in West Liberty and the Little Sandy Correctional Complex in Sandy Hook. Well, officers with the Middlesboro Police Department say they arrested a man for breaking into a home in Middlesboro early Sunday morning. A woman told police she heard a noise in her house and found a man inside. He ran off when the woman found him. Police say they looked for 2 hours before finding William Carroll. They believe Carroll crawled through a window to get inside the home. Well, here's a look at a handful of laws set to take effect in Virginia today. The smokers in Virginia will now need to be 21 years old to purchase all tobacco and nicotine products. This is raised from 18. This includes electronic cigarettes and other vaping devices. Drivers will be prohibited from holding any personal communication device, such as a cell phone, while driving in construction zones. The use of drones for intimidation, harassment, or previously established unwanted contact with someone is now a Class 1 misdemeanor, as is using drones to capture images of someone in their home against their will if the operator has been required to register on the Sex Offender and Crimes Against Minors Registry. Research facilities will now be required to use alternatives to animal testing unless no other viable option is available, and dogs will be allowed in designated areas of establishments like wineries, breweries, and distilleries, except where food is prepared. For a more detailed list of the changes taking place today, you can check out our website at WYMT.com. Some new laws also go into effect today in Tennessee. These focus on using cell phones while driving. Tennessee is the latest of 19 states that will enforce a total ban on cell phone use behind the wheel. With these changes, drivers are prohibited from holding a cell phone or other mobile device with any parts of the body while in motion. Drivers are also not allowed to write, send, or read any text-based communication. They also cannot watch or record video while driving. Exceptions to these restrictions include the use of a single button to end voice calls and other vocal communication, music streaming without video, and contacting emergency services. For more information on these laws and the punishments associated with them, you can find that information on WYMT.com. Well, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador officially deployed the National Guard yesterday. The Mexican president said that the Guard will face the violence that exists in the country. López Obrador asked them to act with dedication, work, and not to allow insecurity. Well, Russia plans to tow a floating nuclear power station to the Arctic. It's an attempt to bring electric power to a remote but mineral-rich region. Villages and towns along Russia's Arctic coast generate as much as 20% of the country's gross domestic product, but the settlements are often only accessible by plane or ship. When it's in place, it will be the northernmost operating nuclear plant in the world. But critics compare it to Chernobyl and say it's an environmental threat. Its construction has cost an estimated $450 million. And later, performers in Jenny Wiley's production of Mary Poppins took the stage over the weekend despite the rainy weather.
And speaking of that, chances for scattered showers and storms will continue today and for the next several days. Will they put a damper on your 4th festivities? I'll have the details coming up in about 3 minutes.